Welcome to How to Save Your Marriage with Nicola Beer, a full show of tips and practical strategies to repair, rebuild, and strengthen your relationship. If you are currently stuck, wondering if your marriage can be saved, or you know you want to save it but don't know how to go about changing it, this show is for you. To book your free marriage strategy session with Nicola, get the free marriage ebook or donate. If you are enjoying the show and want to help keep it flowing, visit www.nicolabeer.com.
Hi and welcome. Thanks for listening to this show. I'm going to be talking today about quite a sensitive topic, and that's post-abortion pain, trauma. And when I talk about pain, I'm talking about emotional pain as well as the physical pain some people can even still have, because everything physical is tied to our emotions. Physical pains after, for many years later. And so I help many individuals with this. I help many men, many women, and a couple who have to go through and make that difficult decision after they've made that decision. So I've tended to work with couples that come to me after they have terminated a pregnancy, anything from 3 months later or to 15 years later. Actually, I even had one lady who was really suffering with an addiction because of an abortion that she had 25 years before, when she was very young. And so it is a real thing. It can leave a person riddled with guilt, riddled with regret, remorse. It can create feelings of resentment between a couple. And of course, it's a very horrible experience for many women that have to go through that. And the memories of that, if they're not released, can sometimes cause PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder. Although I don't like the word disorder for anything, everything can be changed with the right support, and people are coping the best they can. So why label things disorders? We all go through difficult times in our lives. We can create difficult behaviours, and yet we can change them. Anyway, that's just me on labels and disorders and things like that. So today I'm going to share a few case studies with you that I've supported post-abortion. I do have permission, and I have changed all identifying characteristics to keep their anonymity, because that's very important. And I'm going to share with you their stories because it helps to understand that other people are going through similar things if this has happened to you, or if you're trying to support someone that this has happened to and you're not sure how to cope with it. And of course, if it's impacting your relationship. So let me first talk about Melina and Ahmed. Melina and Ahmed had been dating secretly for a few years when they accidentally fell pregnant. Melina was happy, but they were both scared of the potential repercussions because pregnancy before marriage is seriously frowned upon in their community and may lead to outright rejection and shame. Ahmed was deeply worried about his family finding out, so he begged Melina to terminate the pregnancy. This caused so much pain to them both, and even though they did eventually get married, neither of them could forget what had happened before. Melina particularly struggled to let go of the memory of her unborn baby, especially now that she has 2 boys. She is always wondering what it would have been like to have kept the baby, what if it was a girl, what if they had a similar personality to her current children, what if they were completely different. When she notices girls and boys around that age that child would have been, she fills with sadness and wonder, and she remembers the date. She remembers how old the baby would be on the due date, and when she sees, like I mentioned, children that age, it's something that goes through her mind. And that was before she came to me for help. And all of these thoughts and feelings were becoming more and more intense the more Melina was in conflict with her in-laws and her husband's family, especially when it came to her husband not standing up for her towards his in-laws, well, her in-laws, his parents. She felt that she was right back in the pain of the past. How rejected she felt then, how not good enough, how not accepted, not loved. And so any kind of triggers by his family were causing her to withdraw in the relationship, withdraw emotionally and physically. And they also didn't have anybody to talk to, as sex before marriage is not accepted in their community. They didn't tell any friends, they didn't tell any family members, and they didn't seek any help. So they kept everything in, they brushed it all under the carpet, hoping that no one would find out. And it made it so much harder for them both to process. Because if you're keeping all your thoughts in, you're keeping those images in, the pain in, there's no outlet at all, it can be a real challenge. Now, whilst I don't believe in just talking over the past as if all of a sudden it goes, I do have techniques and ways of supporting people to release it. And we do a little bit of talking, and then we work with the subconscious mind, which is where we hold all of our emotions, all of our memories, all of our behaviours, all of our pain, and work on helping them to gently let go, trust that the future's going to be better, love themselves. And sometimes we do special rituals to say goodbye to the unborn baby. And some people really love that, and it's something that they need to have that closure to be able to move forward in their life. Another case study that I worked with is Samantha and Phil. Again, I've changed their names. And they had 2 children, and they were living comfortably until COVID hit. They ran an events and tourism business, which sadly collapsed, and financially they were ruined. They couldn't afford to pay their debts to suppliers, and to add to the stress, Samantha found out that she was pregnant. Phil believed that they had no choice but to terminate the pregnancy because he was already struggling financially, and another baby would just put more strain on the family. Phil felt if they carried on with this pregnancy, he would fall into a deep depression because he was already feeling highly stressed, anxious, and very low from the depths and the loss of the business. Samantha begged him and begged him and begged him to keep the baby, saying that she just couldn't do it and she didn't want to do it, and that they would find a way to manage, and that they have 2 amazing children already. And how could he say that, given that they love their children so much and they're the best thing that's happened to them as a couple? She was just so shocked that her husband could even think of suggesting it. And Phil always went back to the numbers. And this drove Samantha mad. She felt that he was being cold and heartless, and she began seeing him in a very different light. Reluctantly, she made an appointment, but it did not sit right with her at all. After a few hours before, she begged him again, pleading with him, and he said that if they kept the baby, she would lose him. That's what he kept saying to her. He kept saying, I'm going to have a breakdown. I'm already not coping. I'm already highly anxious, drowning in debt, unable to cope. Please don't put another baby on me. Please, you'll lose me. I'm going to crash. I'm so close to breaking point, he was telling her. So they went ahead, they booked the trip away to go and have the abortion. And the few hours before, she broke down again, crying hysterically, saying, please, please, please. And again, he said, look, please, please, please. And they were both begging each other. So she said to him, okay, if I go ahead with this, you need to give me support. I'm going to need to see a counsellor. I'm going to need to get help. So he agreed. And then she went ahead. And the grief, the pain, the sadness and the loss was just so overwhelming for her. She suffered for several months in a deep depression before she saw me. and she couldn't stand the sight of her husband. Someone who she loved and adored, someone who she used to support emotionally and be the light and the happiness of the home. She just couldn't stand to be in the home anymore. Her only way to cope at first was to focus on the children, and then after that she decided to look after the children and then go out every night to avoid her husband. And when he tried to talk to her, she was cold, she was short, and he felt terrible on both fronts. Terrible his wife was suffering, terrible financially, and terrible that the marriage had changed. Would he ever get it back? Was it completely lost? He also was really suffering when I saw them both independently. So Samantha first needed to heal and come to terms with the loss, which we did. And then I worked with Phil to understand how he needed to repair the relationship with Samantha, the actions, the steps. Repairing a relationship, rebuilding trust and connection is done through actions. No amount of thinking and talking is going to help. It's all about the right actions at the right time and the right support. Previously, Samantha in the relationship was the romantic, the social butterfly, the person that created that positive energy. And she couldn't do that. And so I had to train Phil to be his own version of positivity in the house. Of course, he's not going to be like her. He's going to have this male version of being romantic, leading and creating positive energy in the home, leading the family, just like he had led his business through the good times. Now these skills needed to be applied to the family home, to the relationship, and over time, with the right actions and the right attitude and not going into guilt and depression himself, they were able to come through. She was able to release the resentment and anger. She saw a good side of her husband that she'd never seen before, and she really needed him to step up and show this love for her, and they managed to get both the loving feelings back, which is really, really great. So whatever the reason behind a couple having an abortion, there is one thing that I see time and time again, and that is that it can be very deep. And it's not just women that are affected, it can be very deep for both. I have had another case where the boyfriend really, really wanted to keep baby and the girlfriend didn't. So it's not always just one-sided. And so I'm just going to talk through some of the symptoms that people may have experiencing an abortion, and hopefully this also will give insight and help you or a loved one if you are supporting someone going through this. So guilt is one of the first major emotions. Many feel guilt for years or decades, sadly, unless they do the releasing work. One lady believed that because she had an abortion at 17, she didn't deserve to have children in her life as a punishment. We cleared that belief, and she went on to have twins at 41 and a half years old. And she was just delighted that we got in touch because she'd always wanted to have children, and she felt that she didn't deserve it because of that. And now she's really happy. And it completely went against her personal beliefs or morals. However, she was going to be chucked out on the street at 17, and she didn't know what to do. So there's always circumstances behind everything, and it's so important not to judge. It really is. Then there's flashbacks and nightmares. So some people keep reliving what happened and what it could have been different, and that can be quite difficult to deal with. Some people feel undeserving, like they're punishing themselves. Some people develop addictions or eating disorders. I've supported people with that. They may feel like they don't deserve anything good in life. They may put themselves down a lot. And then there's the self-destructive behaviours. So guilt and trauma can cause, as I mentioned, addictive patterns. People can turn to alcohol, drugs, comfort eating, shopping addiction, gambling, sex, whatever it is. Anything to numb out and block the pain. What's a definition of addiction that I kind of use? where you use something to fix your feelings, or where it's causing you problems and despite that you can't seem to stop. That's how I see it, and that's the approach that I take people on to change it. And then there's anxiety and depression. So repressed emotions can lead to feelings of anxiety and depression. And because it's so difficult to talk about, it's a very taboo topic, a lot of time the suppressed emotions just come out as general anxiety over everything, or like a low mood. Sometimes it can create physical symptoms. There can be pain in the womb, pain in the abdomen, heart palpitations, and difficulty sleeping. And then sometimes it can affect people by the way they think about falling pregnant again. They may dream and obsess over being pregnant again. They may start to think that they're being punished if they can't get pregnant in the future by God or by karma for the abortion. They may think that their relationship is now a failure and doomed to fail because of it. So it can also create that kind of worry and stress and obsession. And then there's the distance, which I talked about with Samantha and Phil, and also Melina and Ahmed. Sometimes couples or individuals, they can start to drift apart. They can feel that they've maybe wronged any children that they have because they feel like, I've deprived my children of a brother or sister, and they may sometimes feel like they don't deserve to have their living children. I've had that before. So as you can see, it can create a lot of distance and isolation for someone where they just feel like, I just want to disappear, I don't want to be here anymore, because they're carrying so much unprocessed emotion. So, of course, having an abortion is viewed differently to many people than losing a child naturally. And for this reason, this is why it can be so difficult for people to not have the closure, not be able to talk about it, to feel more lost, to feel that guilt, the anger, the resentment, the rage, the hurt. And for some people that go through that abortion procedure, it can be very cold, very clinical, and there's no special marking of saying goodbye, of getting that emotional closure. I do a lot of grief recovery work, and often when people are struggling to let go of things, what they need to do is they need a bit of completion to be able to share what they needed to share and they didn't get the chance. So if you can resonate with any of this, I'm going to go through some tips for you now so that you can heal and hopefully, if you decide to, rebuild a healthy connection with your partner if it has been damaged by this. So the first thing is there has to be forgiveness. Forgiving yourself is so important because you don't gain anything by punishing yourself. All we have is ourselves. And we're going to have ourselves for the rest of our lives. And it doesn't matter if we move city or country, we're going to always take ourselves with us. So learning to love ourselves, learning to show ourselves empathy, compassion, understanding, patience, and understanding that it's both physically and emotionally draining. Not putting so much pressure on yourself. Oh, get over it. Some people have speak to themselves like that and they haven't done any work to heal. So that's the next point, processing the loss. If you feel that you're struggling, that there are no memories, if you're feeling sad and hurt, if you're feeling a huge sense of emptiness and loss, then find someone that you trust to talk to. Many people that I support in my grief recovery, they write a letter to the unborn baby, or they do a planned ritual every year to remember them. Others decide that that's too much and they want to move on, so we just focus on them reaching and being the best person that they can be in the future, and that makes them feel good. And having a purpose, something to live for, a way to give back to life and to the universe. And then there's making plans for the future. So it can be so easy for an individual or a couple to get stuck in the past, going over everything that's happened, repeating the conversations that were had in their mind, repeating the conversations with their partner. And with anything, we have to let go of the past and switching our thoughts to what we control, what we can control moment to moment. Because there are many things we can't control. We cannot change the past, which is obvious. And there is a big difference between noticing what's not going right in a relationship, in life, and focusing, dwelling on the past and what's not going right. Now, of course, we need to notice things so we can change and adapt, but focusing on what we don't want is just going to bring all of what we don't want, all those emotions up to the surface, and then you end up living in it. So focusing on the present and the future can provide often the much needed light at the end of the tunnel. And then you can build new experiences step by step, hopefully build a brighter future, whether that's for yourself or together. It's so important as well. I talk a lot about releasing resentment and negativity, fear, guilt in my other podcasts. This is a process that I love to do in my 3-day intensive breakthrough sessions, where I help people to release a stack of emotions from the past very quickly and easily, because our unconscious mind holds these emotions in our subconscious mind, and it doesn't need to be painful to get rid of them. It doesn't mean we're going to need to talk for hours and hours, for months and months and years, because the processes that I use is worked and designed exactly how the unconscious mind works. And our unconscious mind is very clever, and it's designed to, when you feel pain, when you feel an emotion, an intense emotion, if you learn from it, you can let it go. Most of us have that experience where something's bothering us, whether it's a work situation, a family situation, a relationship situation. It's on our mind. It's on our mind maybe for a few days. Sometimes it can be on our mind for a few weeks. We can have stomach knots about it, or we can feel a tightness in our chest or our shoulders or our neck. And it can just really bother us. And then all of a sudden we're staring out the window, or just as we're going to sleep, our mind goes, yay, I've got the answer. This is why that happened. And this is what I'm going to do differently. And once you learn from it, it kind of just goes. The pain goes, the emotional stress goes, you feel better. We love solving our problems. We love learning from the emotions. We love learning from challenges. It feels good. And so this process has been very cleverly designed 35 years ago. And it's a process where we go and learn from these emotions, from these events. What do you need to learn quickly so that you can just release the emotion? So I often do that with people. Of course, if you've got another way you might like to release anger, fear, guilt and resentment, do that. Some people really find physical exercise can help them release emotions. Some people do meditations, also do hypnotherapy, that can be really good. Some people, they journal. For other people, journaling can make things a lot worse. So you've got to really find the right way to release for you, and just keep trying. Don't give up. The people that really struggle in life, whether it's about this or anything else, is because they're holding on to strong negative emotions from the past, and it just creates so much pain. So doing whatever you can to keep working on releasing your emotions. And then speaking to a professional. If you feel that you cannot get anywhere on your own, or you want some relationship support for this, then finding someone that you resonate with, that's able to redirect your thinking to the present and to the future. Of course, do the healing work, the releasing work, and then do the present and the future. You want someone that's not going to be going over and over and over the past and why you're unhappy. You want someone that's going to listen and then do the change work with you, give you coping strategies, help you to start to change things. So if you have any questions at all about healing from an abortion, or you want to know more about how I can support with grief and loss or this area, then you can go to my website and you can book a 20-minute Zoom call with me. You can also join my Facebook group, Relationship Tips and Advice with Nicola Beer. And in this group, I do lives every week. I did have a few weeks break where I've been giving one of my audio programs as a competition. I think we've got 2 weeks left of that. And then I'll be doing the lives again every week, which I love. I've got some really special guests lined up, which will be really insightful and interesting as well to do. So I am in there every day, pretty much answering your questions and sharing videos and things. So please do join the community. It's great to see it's growing. We've got over 2,000 members now, and I just love seeing people support one another. So you don't have to share, you can just listen and hang around the group and support other people, because we can really learn from our emotions. We can really grow knowing that other people are going through the same thing that we've either been through or are going through. It gives us that sense of feeling that we're not going crazy and that there is other people that care, and it's just really nice. So do feel free to join. Lovely to interact with you in there, and hopefully you'll join the lives and be willing to ask me some questions as I go in there live every week. So from my heart to yours, wishing you a wonderful week ahead, and look forward to connecting with you again very soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening to How to Save Your Marriage with Nicola Beer. To book your free marriage strategy session today, you can visit www.nicolabeer.com, where you can also get the free marriage fixing ebook, request a topic for the show, and make a donation if the show has been of benefit to you and you want to help keep it going. We wish you an amazing love-filled day ahead.